Good morning. This is Jason D coming live at you from Film Fanatic headquarters. It is Saturday at about 10:48. It's a pretty horrendously crappy day out. It's supposed to be stormy, rainy, snowy, icy all at once and windy. So yeah, this winter weather-wise it's been sucking pretty hardcore, but anyway, we have a show tonight. I was a little bit worried if it was going to get canceled or not because there were a few events that I was aware of that were taking place today on Saturday that did get canceled because of this weather. But it's not, as far as I know, it's not going to be canceled tonight. We're going to be playing tonight with Quantum at Hey Sailor, which is such an amazing venue. So if you're around, hopefully it will clear up. It's not till 7 o'clock tonight, and supposedly it's supposed to clear up later, but we'll see. And it's been a few other events that were still set to go tonight that I'd heard about. There were a few daytime things that got canceled today, but yeah, crazy weather patterns. But anyway, um, so today is on a show, or today is on a movie that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and it's kind of the case of I have tons of movies that I always want to talk about. I buy movies quite a bit, so they get sometimes put into a pile and then I don't get to them. But I usually am a person who watches everything that I talk about, or at least I try to be. And then about 90% of the movies, or 95% of the movies that I talk about on this channel are all from my personal collection. So, and again, there are certain movies that I will watch. If I like a movie, I'll watch it, over and over again. It will kind of almost be like, that special album or that special CD of a band you really like. Well, you'll just, you're in the mood for it, or you just feel like you need to listen to it, you'll just put it in. I'm kind of that same way with movies. I will just, be in a certain mood sometimes, and I'll like think of something, a movie or something during the day, and then I'll think about it all day, and then when I come home and the day is done, I'll usually watch it. So, and then sometimes there are movies, obviously, where I can listen to it anytime, or I should say, watch anytime, or if it comes to a record, when it comes to a record or a CD, I can just throw in, and it doesn't really depend on, say, the mood that I'm in or whatnot. So it's very, very cool. But I'm a huge, and I do believe I've done some coverage of some James Bond films. I do believe I did a few. I'm a huge James Bond fan, and I I used to have a friend. We kind of went separate ways, but years ago we used to go to the movies every year, or I should say every time a new James Bond movie would come out, and it was, Pierce Bronson was the James Bond at that time. He made a ton of movies. Those movies were pretty good. I always thought they were more on the, I don't know, there was a little bit more suspension of disbelief, and maybe the stories just weren't as strong as other films, but I liked them. I haven't seen them in years, but during that time, overall, I've always been a huge James Bond fan, and we used to go to the movies to see the latest James Bond movie every year, and it was always a blast. It was always fun. Um, but and again, I really really love James Bond, the franchise. You know, um, so many great actors. Probably Sean Connery, probably the greatest one, but there's so many great ones. But I have to say my favorite of all time is Daniel Craig. I just love Daniel Craig. I think he's an amazing actor. I think he's one of those guys that can carry a movie even if the movie is not very good. He's just got great screen presence. He can be really funny. He can be a great action star. He can be really menacing when he needs to be. He's got dramatic chops. I mean, he's got the whole thing. And I felt, you know, I honestly think probably the greatest James Bond movie, pound for pound. And again, it's saying a lot, but I think the greatest James Bond movie ever made was probably Casino Royale, the first movie that Daniel Craig made. I think it's probably the best one. It's that movie to me is simply breathtaking, and I do believe I'm pretty sure I did a show about that for the channel. I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure because that's my favorite. And as a whole, Daniel Craig is my favorite. I just love what he brought to the screen, to the character. He just bought. There's like a certain level of grittiness and a realistic nature to what he like a little bit more of a grounded kind of thing that he brought to the movie, to the franchise, and to the character of James Bond. But super cool. And the only film that I am not a huge fan of, but again, I do want to see it again. But I've always felt it was kind of undercooked or underwhelming, especially following up on Casino Royale, which is just a breathtaking movie. Was the second one he made, Quantum of Solace. I was never really a big fan of that movie. I always thought it was good in a lot of ways, but always thought it was just kind of subpar and just not quite at the level of the first one. It was just everything felt anticlimactic after that. But the other films that Daniel Craig made in the series, especially the last one, I think are awesome. I really love those movies. And the last, and it's crazy how long it's been, but the last James Bond movie I think I did see is the one I'm going to be talking about today, and that is James Bond's Skyfall. I have about 3 or 4 James Bond movies in my collection on Blu-ray, and which again, one day I would love to get the entire collection, like the whole box set on Blu-ray. That would be pretty spectacular. But I really love this movie, Skyfall. I got this not that long ago on Blu-ray. I bought it at Goodwill, and again, Goodwill is an awesome shop. I go specifically to occasionally. I go to the one in Belfast, which is actually closer to my house. And I have gotten some good movies there. I definitely have. But I think the one in Rockland is just spectacular. I've gotten so many great movies from that shop. I had always been going to Goodwill. I started going there to the one in Rockland more so. I used to go to that one a few years ago, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I used to be down in Rockland every week for work and stuff, and so I was down there, and I got in a habit of stopping in there, and I was like, wow, they got a pretty good selection of movies. And since I got in a Blu-ray, collecting, I got over the last 2 or 3 years, I've gotten so many great movies from there. They typically have a lot of the bigger action, more big budget Hollywood movies, and I love those movies too. And they have so many. I've basically completed my entire Marvel movie Blu-ray collection just from going there. I've gotten pretty much, with the exception of maybe one or two or three, I've gotten every movie that I've wanted in the Marvel universe and on Blu-ray. The last one I bought was Black Panther, which I really love, and I got that fairly recently, and I did a show on that a few weeks ago. And I was super psyched. One of my last trips down there, I got Skyfall. I really love this movie. Javier Bardem is the villain in this movie. He is I think, one of the best villains ever in the entire franchise. So cool. This movie came out 2012. It's hard to believe it's that old already. I saw this in the theater. I remember going to see it at Flagship when it came out. Such a damn good movie. Um, it's a little bit more of a personal kind of journey, or where you kind of look under the hood a little bit of how James Bond became James Bond. It goes into his history, or his life with his family, and that is very much part of the title Skyfall, which is was his residence of where he grew up. And so it's very interesting that they kind of dive deep into that aspect, and that's something you have never really seen before in any of the other movies. And it's very cool. It's really eye opening. It's a pretty dark movie, and the action is just amazing. There's one sequence in particular where it takes place in China, and it's breathtaking. Like the lighting, the cinematography. There are so many the action sequences in this movie. I like I said, Casino Royale is my favorite James Bond movie overall, and it's definitely my favorite Daniel Craig. But there are some action sequences in Skyfall that come close to being as mesmerizing as that movie, and that is kind of impossible to say or to find that level in any movie. The sheer level of entertainment, but the sheer level of spectacle, like on such a big scale. Super awesome. And the other thing too is these movies are the James Bond movies are typically long. This movie is close to 3 hours. But that's the thing is I never get fatigued when I watch one of these movies, especially this one. I mean, I this is close to 3 hours, but it has such a great flow. It has such a great. The editing is amazing, and the other thing that's really great is there's a lot of great use of, for all intents and purposes, dynamics in the film. There's a lot of obvious explosions and big, grandiose action scenes, but then there's a lot of quieter moments in the movie. And there's a really cool the editing, I think, for this movie is so well done. This movie was directed by Sam Mendes, who is an amazing director. He's made some pretty tremendous movies over the years. He's won the Academy Award for a few movies over the years. The great Sam Mendes, of course, he directed American Beauty, which is Kevin Spacey, which is such an incredible movie. 1917, he won, I believe, the Academy Award in 2019 for that. Empire of Light 2022, Skyfall in 2012, Revolutionary Road, which is actually a really great movie with DiCaprio and Kate Winslet. Um, Spectre in 2015. Um, which was another James Bond movie. Pretty awesome. Yeah, he's a pretty amazing director. Road to Perdition with Tom Hanks, which is an awesome, and Jude Law is also in it. It's this period piece gangster movie that takes place in the 20s and 30s. Really great, kind of film noir, really brutal movie. And Daniel Craig is actually in that too. Super cool movie. That's one of my favorites of his. But this movie's great. And I believe too, Sam Mendes is one of the. I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but off the top of my head, I kind of think that he might be the only director in the entire Bond franchise that has directed multiple movies, more than one. So, but this is an awesome movie. This is such a great spectacle. The Blu-ray is just the transfer of this film on Blu-ray is just spectacular. Um, This particular disc does not really have any special features on it, which is kind of a bummer. But nevertheless, I got this for $9. It was unused, so it's perfect quality. Really psyched that I bought this, and definitely a awesome movie. One of the best in the franchise, one of the best in the series where Daniel Craig is the star. Super cool movie. So I will eventually probably buy more of his of the James Bond movies, especially the Daniel Craig movies. I would love to get the entire box set, but we'll see what happens. So thanks again. Stay safe out there in this shitty weather, and we will see you soon. Peace.